with the technology that we're providing, much easier. So we're moving from an interaction paradigm, shifting away from the desktop system into a more personal or pervasive computing paradigm. So we have to look at what kinds of techniques or what interaction techniques are available in which environments, in which context for a particular group of people, and how can these people receive feedback through this interaction. So we've considered all this information and we put together a couple of things or key decisions and parameters for interaction in these ambient intelligent environments. The first one is to consider who, that means end user categorization, and what his interaction affordances are. What I mean by interaction affordances here is like you consider things like the mental, physical, the natural communication abilities of our end user. They also have to look at what the user wants to actually accomplish. This is what I mean by a scenario-based approach. We have to consider certain cognitive models of the user's intent. This is the process called goal formation that tries to identify actually the task that a user wants to realize. And we have to structure those tasks in the form of a dialogue. Then when a user is interacting with his environment, he's actually having a dialogue with his environment. We also have to determine the various features that this technology that's embedded in the environment can actually offer to the user. Thirdly, we have to address how the user wants to accomplish the goal using his interaction affordance. And lastly, we also have to consider how the system can provide feedback when the user actually triggers an interaction. So this is a simple graphical model that shows the various steps that have been extracted out of this design decisions, showing how a chain of sequential activities in realizing a normal interaction. In fact, when a user starts an interaction, he is entering a cycle. He enters a cycle, and that cycle has to go through a loop until he finishes what he wants to accomplish. The system has to provide feedbacks during the cycle, and till that goal is accomplished. So in order to actually go through the cycle, you have to extract information. What kind of user is it? Can he use a device that I'm actually providing for him to use? Do I understand his goal? Do I actually understand what he wants to do? And can I extract out of what he wants to do a sub-classification of, that means division of his goals into sub-tasks, so that I can actually combine the technology from, because we have different sensors and different kinds of monitoring systems and different kinds of techniques to interact. Can I link this sub-task with the techniques so that I integrate in a common, coherent way the user's actual interaction in the cycle?
5 minutes, Pascal.
Okay, I'm also close. So we have to consider that when we segment these issues and put in, actually let the user trigger an action, we go through the cycle where we have these feedback loops to enable the user either affirm or refuse that is not my goal before we let the device do the job. I have included in this slide a small scenario to portray a simple interaction with a television set for an elderly person. In fact, this is just a simple scenario. It is applicable. This model, you can apply it as well in other areas like in health or what. But in either case, here I'm trying to extract information like understanding what kind of user I'm dealing here, or is involved in the scenario. Here's an elderly of generation 65 plus, interaction affordances. She is able to use speech. She's able to manipulate objects, tangible interaction, and she's able to make certain gestures. Her goal is to interact with the TV set in a living room, preferably using her more natural communication abilities, which I just mentioned above. And the devices with which she can interact with are this a tangible table, which is a belt, a microphone, and probably a headset. And the other device is a television set that is connected to a set-top box and a hi-fi set. When you see the user can just simply move these little tangible artifacts and combine it with his speech to either change a channel, which is much easier for the user. Now, based on this simple model, I want to say the simplicity of this model will allow actually a high abstraction of the user interface problem in an intelligent environment. What I'm trying to say here is that the problem of interaction for an elderly person has to be understood at a higher level. We have to abstract the problem so that those designing the technology can better adapt that technology to make the users derive the benefits out of it. Secondly, we want to facilitate an easy pattern for recognition of interaction and formation of a knowledge base of different patterns or different activity that the user is doing. So if we can identify the techniques the user is using, the kind of user, we can form a knowledge base so we can easily extract information from this knowledge base to help the user interact freely in its environment. Thirdly, it will help user interface engineers to easily or rapidly build better intuitive interfaces for the user to use this technology. Fourthly, this model is so generic in its form as a thing that it offers the property of accommodating emerging technologies. That means if we make things simple, it will be easier to handle new interaction techniques that are still to emerge. So our look is that we intend to extend this model with reflexive techniques. What do I mean by reflexive techniques? I mean we intend to enable certain reasoning interpreters with regard to user group driven issues and their preferences. That means that we can build in reasoners that understand user-driven issues, and we incorporate that into design, as well as building a rule-based engine that will forward the integration of context data in the whole interaction cycle. More importantly, we have to also look in the future, designing new algorithms that will incorporate the different forms of modalities for interaction in a very synchronized manner in this user interface life cycle. Lastly, it is good that in a new emerging field like ambient intelligence, it's better to start semantically modeling common patterns that are identified in a user interaction cycle as a first step to defining new ontologies that will guide the user interaction in ambient intelligent environments. Thanks very much.